Mirages are produced by refraction of the light in a layer of warm air above the water. You need a clear horizon and a high point of view to see them. In practical terms, the coastal area of any ocean works perfectly. When a mirage is produced, a second sun will appear below the real sun. The sunset, sunrise will take the shape of an etruscan vase or a megalittle. When a mirage happens, the conditions are right for the mythical green flash, a bright explosion of green light that comes from the sun just before sunrise or just after sunset. Hunting for green flashes is difficult, so my recommendation is to use video if you have it in your camera to photograph the entire sunset, sunrise event and look for frames where the green flash is present. Once you get used to the exact moment of the flash, you can try again in photo mode. Clouds can create several interesting effects and distortions, including refractions, shadows, pillars and other interesting and beautiful effects. In the photograph at top right, the uppermost sun has its top severely flattened. It is bright, indicating that its rays were less scattered by the atmosphere and dust. In contrast, the dimmer lower sun is remarkably undistorted, even though its rays have traveled through a much longer or dustier atmospheric path. As the two suns descend, the lower one remains astonishingly round, but it is increasingly cut off by the ocean horizon. Meanwhile, the upper sun shrinks to line then a tiny bright dot. A narrow cloud bank lies between the two sunsets. The two separate images were formed by rays passing through two quite different vertical atmospheric temperature and density profiles. Over the ocean, the density decreased with height, with perhaps some relatively sharp density gradients. Over the land, the air close to the surface was hot, dry and less dense than that immediately above it. Upper sun, the air above the ocean is relatively cool and dense. Its density and refractive index decreases monotonically with height, and at the altitude of Paranal the air density is only 75% of that at sea level. The upper sun was probably formed by rays refracted downwards into denser air layers, as shown by the upper ray path. The refraction caused the solar image to appear higher than the real sun. The peculiar shape can be explained if the boundary between dense and less dense air was relatively sharp. Rays from the upper part of the solar disk encountering the boundary were refracted to form a highly flattened image. Lower sun, rays passing deep into the atmosphere and close to the ocean form the lower sun. The rays were refracted partially around the curve of the ocean surface. They then encountered a layer of warm, dry and less dense air over the hotter desert between the ocean and the mountain observation point. The air layer over the coastal part of the ocean could also be warmed by late afternoon. Cooler and denser air overlay the surface warm air layer. Rays are always refracted towards cooler and denser air, so they were bent upwards into the denser cool air layer. The rays pointing upwards produced the second sun image apparently below the horizon. The rays from the sun's lower limb were cut off by the ocean surface. The ray path curvatures are exaggerated in the diagram, and mathematical ray tracing is needed to confirm the explanation.